We all have some cards in the game that, while fair enough, just rub us the wrong way when they're played against us. The premise of this list is quite simple. Cards I irrationally want to never see played against me, despite the fact that, for the most part, they're not really overpowered or unfair. It is important to note that I purposely avoided cards that have similar effects, only choosing the most annoying one. For example, if Phoenix Wing Wind Blast was on this list, then Back to Square One could not be on this list as well. With that said, in the words of another past internet personality, let's get this train wreck a rolling. Number 10. Fire Formation Goyoku. Hey, it's an easily searchable, in Fire Fists, face-up spell that completely restricts your ability to activate a face-down spell or trap card, and you cannot chain to it. Not only that, it has the secondary effect of increasing the attack of your opponent's Beast Warrior monsters. Most of the time, having your face down frozen in time, in a sense, rather than destroyed, is worse because now you have one less spell or trap zone to work with, especially if you're running a Pendulum deck, and no graveyard effects for that card if it has any. Finally, your opponent can manipulate his side of the field to use it to trigger other Fire Fist effects, making it typically more versatile than cards like MST or Cosmic Cyclone. This card is solid and annoying. Now, some may give me a raised eyebrow for this choice, but remember, I didn't say this card was game breakingly awesome. I said it was solid and annoying, which it is. Also, for those who simply believe this card is irrelevant because it can be removed from the field, freeing up your face down, unlike if your face down had been hit by an MST, good Fire Fist decks run a number of more meaningful threats, as known back row like Tensu or Tenkin, to unknown back row like various Mirror Force variants and Solemns. So that lockdown face down must be very important to your strategy if you're going to spend removal on this guy over taking out a Solemn or a Tensu. Number 9. Lightning Chidori. I guess it's no surprise that one of the better rank 4 cards in the game can be an effective annoyance. While a number of meta players may look at this choice and simply shrug their shoulders due to the plethora of quick play interruption they consistently run, for a player like me that prefers the challenge and fun of a rogue deck, who also has the preference for running battle traps from time to time, Chidori can be quite rage inducing. The ability to return a face-down card, monster, spell, or trap to the bottom of the deck just on its summons alone, and then detach one material to return a face-up card to the top of the deck. Chidori is frequently a +1 if its effect is not stopped, and with the top of the deck return significantly limiting the ability of the opponent to remove it from the field on the next turn, Chidori more than likely will be spinning another face-up card to the top of the deck. The only saving grace is that one almost never sees Chidori because of its requirement of 2 wind level 4 monsters. Thank goodness. Number 8. Cara Gorgon, Anti-Luminescent Knight. Anti-Luminescent Knight exhibits a high-level characteristic of annoying card, the elimination of control. What's that? You want to target that particular card on the opponent's field? Knight says no. I think that other card is a better target. What's that? It was your card, and now you just went -2? Cheerio. Fortunately, this scenario does not happen very often if the player remains aware that, hey, Knight is actually on the field. Unfortunately, Cara Gorgon will sit on the field as this steadfast handicap, frequently reducing the efficiency of ability to make plays. Adding to the annoyance is the fact that the effect has no turn limit. It can be used as long as the material remains to be detached. So baiting its effect is rather worthless. Finally, it has 2450 attack, which is on the higher side for generic rank 4 monsters, making it all the more difficult to remove from the field. Thank goodness the more generic rank 4s have somewhat fallen out of favor outside of Tornado Dragon and Castel, so I don't see this guy as much as I once did. Number 7. Safe Zone. It is easy to see the annoyance factor of a card that prevents the destruction or targeting of a monster, while allowing the affected monster to retain all of its effects. To rub salt in the wound, Safe Zone does not even force the affected monster to remain in attack position, just to be in attack position when originally targeted by Safe Zone. So in the mid game, when resources could be lacking for both sides, one can just turn the affected monster to defense position and have a monster that's very difficult to remove from the field without removing Safe Zone, thereby protecting your life points. Safe Zone can also be a great bluff card in a sea of non-chainable blowout cards like Mirror Force variants, because if the opponent blind MSTs and hits the safe zone, you can flip it over, target your opponent's monster with it, and then they lose not only that monster, but the piece of removal they used to hit safe zone in the first place, creating a negative for the opponent. Safe zone reaches its pinnacle of annoyance when affecting a monster that has some sort of destruction resistance. So even when removing it from the field, the monster still remains. The drawback of not being able to attack directly is only a minor handicap. Fortunately, it's surprising that anyone would ever say this, but with Zodiacs running around everywhere and Dryden being the scourge of a card like Safe Zone, you almost never see this card anymore, despite its incredible annoyance factor. Number 6, Eater of Millions. While I like running this card as a tech in a lot of my decks, it definitely represents one of those cards that you love when it's on your side of the field, and you hate when you're facing it down. The ability to summon Eater without any genuine resource expenditure for a monster that can banish any monster it attacks at the beginning of the damage step, i.e., it can remove any monster affected by monster effects and can be attacked, is rather impressive. Some may argue that the loss of 5 or more monsters from the extra deck is meaningful, but for the most part, a lot of decks have some very situational extra deck monsters that, based on the way the duel is going and the current cards that have been drawn, smart players can infer, well, I'm not really going to be needing these extra deck monsters, so I can do away with them to put Eater on the field to make some gains. Eater is one of the most annoying cards in the game for me because, quite simply, it's a plussing machine, and its ability to magnet negation effects at little cost because you need to get Eater off the field ASAP. Number 5, Gagaga Cowboy. The appearance of this card on this list should be no surprise to anyone. Heck, for a period of time, players avoided voluntarily reducing their life points to 800 or less, even if it promoted significant play inefficiency for fear of getting cowboyed. In some circumstances, Cowboy's 2400 defense even allows it to deal 1600 burn damage versus just 800 because it can be somewhat of a nuisance to actually get off the field, especially mid game when resources are low. One of the features of Cowboy that most seem to forget is that it actually has the capacity to take down a monster of 3000 attack or lower with its attack position attack augmentation, which is fairly useful when you have monsters or can't be targeted, so you can't break out a card like Castell. The generic summons condition and its attack or burn versatility still makes Cowboy one of my most annoying cards in the game, despite its fall off in play. Number 4, Breakthrough Skill. There are a number of times when this BS can be total BS. The double dipping capacity of Breakthrough Skill really separates itself from a lot of the other spell and trap single use monster effect negators. Not only does Breakthrough Skill neutralize playmaking during the opponent's turn, limiting explosiveness, but it can also neutralize opponent monsters during your turn in a second go around, which can be incredibly annoying for monster based negators or monsters with natural protections, especially since most of those monsters cost significant resources to actually put on the field. Thus, Breakthrough Skill's banished from graveyard effect becomes almost an auto plussing. The lack of technical activation associated with its graveyard banishing effect also heavily limits the opponent's ability to prevent that second negation aspect of its effect. While Breakthrough Skill is certainly fair, there are a number of situations, especially that banished from the graveyard aspect, where it seems unfair. Number 3, Icarus Attack. On its face, this card looks fair and balanced, just a standard 2 for 2. And being a trap card, it even has the slow aspect a number of players hate. Oh, it's a trap, it's automatically bad. However, the fact that it is a trap makes it balanced and incredibly annoying due to its use as a defensive element. There is little in this game that is more annoying for me than going after a high value winged beast target with a card effect because it's too big to be bested by battle, only to have the opponent turn over Icarus Attack and use that high value card as its cost. No longer is it a 2 for 2, but now it becomes at least a +1 for the opponent, and more than likely even better because of the value of the 2 cards it just destroyed with Attack's effect. The resource depletion capacity of this card is just ridiculous, and there are times it almost puts me on tilt. Number 2, Stellar Nova Alpha. It's not surprising that the best counter trap in the game is also one of my most annoying cards in the game. I have heard some people attempt to argue that Alpha is fair and perfectly balanced. Yeah, that's not correct. With the general structure of how Satellar Knights work as an archetype, the tribute cost associated with Alpha's activation is almost meaningless, as either the cost wants to be in the graveyard or receives an effect for going to the graveyard. In fact, if Deltaros or Trevere is involved in the Alpha activation, it goes from being a break-even of sorts, a -1 for both players, to commonly a -1 for the opponent and a +3 for the Stellar Knight player. At its very worst, Alpha is a raw quasi +1 and a -1 for the opponent, with the possibility of greater losses for the opponent due to the negated card not allowing the ability to make further plays and stealing momentum. Are you serious? A counter trap that is commonly a +1 if not better? How can you not be annoyed by this card? And finally, number 1. Well, perhaps it is understandable that my number 1 is actually on the ban list in the TCG because otherwise it might get messy for my psyche. I don't know. However, oddly enough, while it is limited to 1 in the TCG, it is unlimited in the OCG. The card? Torrential Tribute. Torrential may be the best card in the game at snatching victory from the jaws of defeat that is not unbalanced. Its annoyance is largely derived from those moments where, let's say my opponent has 3,100 life points, and I have a 1,500 attacker on the field and a 1,600 attacker in hand, and I'm facing a monster clear field. My opponent doesn't have any type of defense. Well, outside of that pesky one face down, but what could that be? That's just a bluff. So this is easy. I'm just going to summon my 1,600 attacker, swing directly with both my 1,500 and 1,600 attacker. I win. So I'll just go summon that 1,600 attacker now and Torrential Tribute. Various expletives go off in my brain. The existence of Torrential is one of the biggest boogeymen in the game at preventing a player from going for game due to its blowout nature. Most of the time, at its worst, Torrential is a break-even in math that crushes the momentum of the opponent if they're not running either Cosmos or Magispectors. Overall, I think Torrential is a little scarier than the Mirror Force variants because the Mirror Force variants are battle traps. At least you still have the opportunity to summon monsters and make plays like Tornado Dragon to try to eliminate that card. Torrential does not give you that luxury. There have been people suggesting that Torrential should come off the ban list in the TCG because it's not banned in the OCG, or it's a slow trap card. I don't really know how one can come to this conclusion. I don't know why 3 copies of Torrential are not staple in the OCG either. I guess people are just too concerned about offense and not enough about blowout defense that could easily drive the opponent crazy and put them on tilt. Well, that's my list of most annoying but generally fair cards in the game, although I have a slight eye roll for Torrential Tribute. Oh, I hate that card so much. So, viewers, What cards out there increase your ire levels despite being generally fair, unlike a lot of those ire inducing cards like Masterpiece or Soul Charge, which just aren't fair? So, with that, thank you for your attention and your time. I'm out.